There is a broadcast in the air, in the wires, in these little bright rectangles we hold up to our faces, a chant of alarms, a scroll of tremors, the world thought of fear seeking a receiver. It looks like headlines and reels and comment wars. It sounds like sirens behind statistics. It comes with urgency and numbers and 100 opinions that all carry one vibration. Tremble. And if I go unguarded, become the antenna that receives it, amplifies it, makes it flesh in breath and pulse. But I cannot permit this. I will not permit this. I must maintain dominion over what enters consciousness. For has it not been written, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Therefore, I, in this instant, assume conscious dominion over mind and body. I stand here as the porter at the door of thought, and I say to world fear, you may pass by, but you may not pass in. Now, do you remember that I did not say my cleverness, my willpower, my personality would do this? No. It has to be a gentle eye, not an egotistical eye, not a swashbuckler eye rising up against the news, not denial and bravado, not pretending the world has no storms. I will not dramatize it, nor will I apologize for having felt it. Doom scrolling and midnight spirals and comment entanglements are not personal failures. They are symptoms of an unwatched doorway. Fear enters by suggestion, not by merit. Impersonal mesmerism, impersonal suggestion, impersonal world thought, these knock. They are not me. They are not thee. And when I forget that, I seem to be their instrument. But now I remember, I am not an antenna. Consciousness is a sanctuary. In the quiet of the inner court, I am the door. And if I be the door, what shall enter unless I admit it? Did not the master say, I am the door of the sheep? Then I assume that identity, not as Joel, not as a separate someone, but as the living I that guards the flock of thoughts and the flock of breaths. I cannot permit every wind to cross this threshold. I must not. For as I open to fear, I lend it breath. As I close to fear, I deprive it of life in me. Fear may be in the atmosphere, but it need not be embodied in this temple. Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewal begins with refusal. The first act of freedom is a clean, clear inner no. I will not serve as a receiver for collective fear. I will be informed, but not invaded. Aware, but not absorbed. Compassionate, but not hypnotized. I will not let an algorithm be my shepherd. I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. He restoreth my soul. Let that be my feed. And so I adopt the simple rule that we will unfold and practice together. When the broadcast comes, and it will come, in the morning before your feet find the floor, in the afternoon ding of crisis, in the evening thread of debate, I will cut the signal. Stop. Seal. Return. I stop the scroll. I seal the doorway. I return to the living I that rises from the chest, closer than breathing. I do not argue with the world thought. I do not bully it out. I do not post against it. I simply refuse it entry, and I stand still. Be still, and know that I am God. In that stillness, the broadcast fades, for it finds no receiver. And the proof will be simple and felt. We will speak of that. But for today, let this be my vow, spoken quietly, repeatedly. Whenever the stream would claim my gaze, I will not be your antenna. I am the porter. I am the door. I guard this house. I abide in the eye that cannot be frightened, because it is one with the Father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and in that witness I stand, and I keep watch. Now, let us look with a quiet, searching honesty at the way the intruder approaches the gate. Fear seldom introduces itself as fear. It arrives as pictures sliding past a thumb. It arrives as numbers without breath behind them. It arrives as outrage packaged for sharing, as urgency wrapped in red banners, as a whisper, "You must keep watching or you are irresponsible." It enters not with a pitchfork, but with a ping. And unless I am present at the doorway, unless I am consciously saying what shall pass and what shall pause, the gate swings of itself and anything enters. "Take heed what ye hear," said the Master. And again, "Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation." Therefore I stand here the porter at the door of thought. I stand here a tiler over my mind and my body. I, in this instant, assume conscious selection. Now, what is a porter? Not a policeman with a club, not a censor with rage. A porter is simply presence at the threshold. A tiler is the quiet watchman who determines whether a thing has business inside the sanctuary or whether it is merely noise at the curb. I must not mistake passivity for peace. Peace is not absence of news. Peace is presence of eye at the door, and the function is simple. I witness what passes. I admit only what belongs. I deny entry to what would turn the temple into a marketplace of alarms. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips, and I add, keep the door of my thought, for out of it are the issues of life. Do you see the difference between awareness and absorption? Between seeing and receiving? I can look upon a headline as upon a bird flying over the wall, noticed, identified, released. That is awareness. Absorption is when the bird is invited to nest in the chest, to lay eggs of panic, to quicken the breath, to alter the chemistry of the blood. Information is an object before me. Invasion is an atmosphere in me. One I can use, the other uses me. I must learn to feel the distinction when the shoulders rise, when the exhale shortens, when the stomach tightens. I have not merely read a line. I have admitted a climate. That is not sin. That is an unwatched gate, and I will not condemn myself for it. I simply return to the post. Now, part of this subtlety is the suggestion built into the stream itself. Just one more angle, just one more clip, just one more statistic, then you will be safe. That is not knowledge. That is hypnotism. Let me repeat that. The pressure to remain tuned to dread is impersonal suggestion. It is not the journalist, not your friend who forwarded it, not a villain sitting behind a switchboard. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. It is world thought seeking embodiment. And if I forget, I become the instrument as which it operates. But I remember, I am the door. I am not the hallway for fear. I am not the amplifier. Therefore, I, in this moment, distinguish reading from receiving. I can read for facts, for the single piece needed for wise action, and I can refuse the residue that would bathe the nerves in trembling. Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, as a roaring lion, walketh about. As do you hear, not is, as a roar, a suggestion, and having done all, to stand. So I stand. I stand at the door of thought, and I ask a simple question of everything that knocks. Do you have rightful business with the eye? If yes, enter, be seen, be acted upon in calm. If no, pass by. I will not be drawn into the theater of alarms to prove my compassion. My compassion is proven in quiet, steady, intelligent deeds flowing from the eye that cannot be frightened. I will not pretend that this is easy at first. I had my long periods of practice at this very doorway, and sometimes the show tries again to sweep me off my feet. It may get the best of me for a moment, but not for long. I snap out of it, not by force, but by presence. I return to the threshold and reclaim dominion. For I and the Father are one, and this oneness is the authority by which I govern what may live in me. We are preparing now to see the intruder for what it is, impersonal suggestion, not personal doom, so that, as the next step, its claim upon us will dissolve for lack of a name and a nest. Now the next step, and let me state it as plainly and as many times as necessary, until it sinks beneath the ears and into the chest. Error is impersonal. Fear is impersonal. Outrage is impersonal. It is not my fear. It is not your fear. It is not their fear. It is suggestion, mesmerism, a roaming current, world thought, seeking a body to breathe it, a tongue to speak it, a thumb to share it. Let me repeat. I will not grant personality to a current. If I call it mine, I house it. If I call it theirs, I fight them and feed it. But if I call it what it is, impersonal suggestion, it loses its legal right to reside in me. The Master has said, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." I add, label not a person, lest you imprison yourself with the thing you label. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against suggestion, not persons. Look at the machinery of our media stream. Outrage has a clever way of traveling. It titillates, it alarms, it flatters with the feeling of being right, and then it recruits. It recruits fingers to tap, eyes to widen, shoulders to rise, and mouths to repeat. But I say to you, that post which stung me at midnight, do not make an idol of the one who wrote it. The one who wrote it may be as you and as I have been unwatched for a moment, the gate ajar, the current rushing through. They were not the author of reality. They were an instrument as which an impersonal error operated for a moment. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And forgive me that I knew not what I did when I became a repeater station for the same current. I do not condemn the neighbor. I close the gate. Now, do you remember that I did not say deny what is before your eyes or pretend there are no storms? I said depersonalize the storm. When the headline blazes, when the thread baits, when the clip trembles, this is world thought. It is not my consciousness. It has no law in me. Say it softly. Say it as the porter, not as a prosecutor. This is world thought. It is not my consciousness. It has no law in me. Why no law? Because the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free from the law of sin and death. Therefore, no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, not even a weapon shaped like a statistic brandished to hypnotize the nerves. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, free at the point of contact, free at the doorway of thought. Let me caution you about the subtle pride that would rather blame a person than release a current. That pride is itself world thought in a more respectable coat. If I must hate to be holy, I have not yet met holiness. If I must suppress with bitterness to feel safe, I have not yet felt safety. Perfect love casteth out fear. Not perfect arguing, not perfect muting, not perfect dunking in the public square. So I assume dominion without enmity. I can unfollow without a bruise in the chest. I can close the app without a slam in the soul. I can read a fact and let it be a fact. not an atmosphere. I stand at the door and I separate suggestion from person, noise from neighbor, current from child of God. And here is the practicality, for our way is always practical. The next time the rush comes, I do not say, I am afraid. I say, fear is presenting itself as a suggestion. Not my fear, not their fear. Fear. I am the door. I deny it personality. I deny it authorship. I deny it law. This is world thought. It is not my consciousness. It has no law in me. I breathe that truth on the exhale. I let the shoulders fall as if laying down a coat I had accidentally picked up that did not belong to me. And watch what happens to the claim. It cannot stick. It slides from a smooth wall. It will try another door, but not this one, not while I am present. And because I have not made an enemy of my brother or my sister, because I have not stained the mind with hatred in the name of safety, I cut the signal cleanly, without recoil, without moral panic, and I remain available for compassion that moves as wise action. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the broadcast seeks for purchase and finds none. In that knowing, I live informed but not absorbed, vigilant but not inflamed, for I and the Father are one. And in that oneness, no impersonal error finds a personal home. Now I must make a distinction. As sharp as a sword and as gentle as a hand on the cheek, never do get me, and I mixed up. The me, this name, this profile, this biography, this gallery of pictures in the head that one is a fine instrument for errands, for addresses, for calendars. But that me is easily mesmerized. That me is an excellent antenna if I leave it on the throne. It worries, it compares, it scrolls, it demands to be seen. Now listen, I do not rest my dominion in that me. I do not try to make that me mighty. I do not strap swashbuckling affirmations onto that me and call it spiritual. Put up thy sword. The I of which I speak is not the me at all. It is the presence itself, closer than breathing, rising out of the chest, before thought, before word, before world. I am that I am. Not a person saying it, being pronouncing itself. Now, do you remember that I have never said my oneness with God? I said my conscious oneness with God. Not a theology in the head. Not a badge. Not an argument. But the living sense felt immediate that I and my Father are one. As long as I cling to my oneness with God as a possession of the me, I will boast, and then I will be humbled, for the me has no power to sustain itself. But when I rest in conscious oneness, the I abides without effort. Be still and know that I am God. Not Joel is God, not me is God. I, being, is God, and I am included in that. I as its very self. It is no more I that live, but Christ liveth in me. Do you hear? The personal me relaxes. The living I governs. Let me warn you in love. The most dangerous counterfeit of dominion is the loud me, armed with spiritual slogans, strutting on the timelines as if power could be posted. That is not the gentle I. That is insecurity in a halo, and it will be hypnotized in the next cycle, because it is tuned to cycles. The I am training us to live in is not loud. It is sovereign without show. It requires no comparison, no applause, no spectacle. It moves as breath moves when I am not thinking about breathing. In Him we live and move and have our being. Therefore hear the cadence that retrains identity. I rest. I watch. I refuse. I return. I abide. I listen. I let. This is the speech of the I, not the sprint of the me. Where do I feel it? Not in the forehead of thoughts, but in the chest, in the quiet heaviness that is actually light, in the exhale that lengthens of itself when I stop auditioning for the world. The word I comes up from there. All the other words come down from the head. Strip the words. Strip the trance until I remains. Then, when the broadcast comes, it has no handle. The anxious personal self was the handle. Absent a handle, the pot cannot be lifted. The signal cannot dominate the one who abides as the living I, because the living I does not receive. It is presence. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. It cannot seize what will not present a surface for seizure. I will not pretend that I never slip and get me and I tangled. Sometimes I still catch myself saying, my oneness, my power, my spiritual insight, and within an hour I am jittering at a clip, disproving my boast, but not for long. I snap out of it by correction, not condemnation. Quietly I say, no, not my oneness, conscious oneness, not my power, the I that is power. And at once the shoulders fall, the breath evens, the gate is kept. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, and yet made himself of no reputation. Do you see? Equality without reputation, divinity without display. That is the gentle I. Now, because I stand here, not as a better me, but as the I that is, my practice ceases to be self-improvement and becomes remembrance. I am not manufacturing peace. I am returning to what is already the case. Stop, seal, return will not be a trick performed by an anxious personality to protect itself. It will be the natural movement of presence, recognizing presence. And when I operate from there, I can be informed without invasion. I can act without panic. I can love without fear, because the one life that breathes this chest is the same life that breathes every chest. From here, we can proceed to the ritual itself, not to achieve what we lack, but to relax into what cannot be hypnotized, the living I. Now we come to the ritual itself, and we must make it bodily, because the fear stream does not live only in ideas. It lodges in nerves and breath and gut. Words in the head will not untie knots in the belly. Therefore, I give you 3 movements, simple and repeatable, to train the whole instrument to break the broadcast at the point of contact. Not a theory, an act, not a debate, dominion. What I say unto you, I say unto all. Watch. And watching here means that I, in this instant, assume governance of the hand, the eyes, the lungs, and the door of thought. Movement 1, stop. Interrupt the automatic reach. When the impulse rises to pull the screen, to refresh the thread, to chase one more angle, I do not argue with it. I halt it. I let the hand hover and then come to rest, as if I had taken a child's wrist gently in mine, and inwardly, firm and calm, without hostility, I speak. No, this does not enter now. Not later, perhaps now. No, this does not enter now. I do not slam. I do not scold. I do not posture. I simply end the motion. The gesture itself is a prayer. It is the me surrendering the throne back to the I. It is my obedience to the word. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. In this first movement, I am not conquering the world. I am ceasing to be its antenna. I stop. Movement 2, seal. Having stopped, I close the door. Not by straining, but by symbol and breath. I picture the gate of the inner court drawing two unquiet hinges. I feel the latch meet the post. I know the sanctuary is intact. And as the image completes, I take one slow, generous exhale through soft lips. I let the shoulders fall away from the ears. I let the belly ungrip. I let the jaw unclench. I do not push air out. I release it, as if a tide were going out of itself. This exhale is the physical seal. Set me as a seal upon thine heart. With that gentle outflow, I deny entrance to world thought without a quarrel. I do not harden, I soften. I do not brace, I breathe. And in that softening, the nerves receive the message. The porter is at the door. Peace rules here. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. The staying begins with one slow exhale. Movement 3, return. Now I turn not to a concept, not to a verse, not to a slogan in the head, but to the living I rising from the chest. I speak the single word, inwardly just I, and I let it arise up out of the chest on the next gentle exhale. Not I with adjectives, not I with boasts, only I. I feel where it comes from, closer than breathing. I rest attention there for 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 if needed, until I am again immediate. The weight of the seat, the sound in the room, the warmth behind the sternum. Be still and know that I am God, felt, not argued. The personal me recedes. The gentle I abides. I return. Now, make this a microscript you can carry like a key in the pocket. World thoughts. You have no authority. I stand as porter. I return to I. Whisper it in the heart as you stop, as you seal, as you return. Use it at the morning ping, at the noonday headline, at the midnight thread. Use it in the elevator when a stranger's panic brushes your sleeve. Use it in the kitchen when a loved one's fear would recruit your breath to its cause. Never with superiority, always with the humility of one who knows the gate must be kept again and again. I will not pretend that 1 round will break a lifetime's habit. Therefore, I repeat. I stop. I seal. I return. I do it 12 times a day if needed. Not as a chore, but as worship, until the reflex that used to reach for panic now reaches for presence. And you will notice, even before the mind thinks about it, that the body has heard. The shoulders have fallen. The belly has softened. The exhale has stretched of itself. That is the sign that the door has held. That is the beginning of the new habit by which I live, informed without absorption. For I am the door, and no world thought enters this house except by me. Now here is your simple, repeatable evidence, not in a concept, not in a belief, but in the body that hears truth before the head writes it down. When the exhale slows, you have left the broadcast. That is the proof. Not the cleverness of your argument, not the number of verses you can quote, not the speed with which you can shut an app. The body says it first. The Spirit of God hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. When the breath of the Almighty governs the breath of the instrument leaves the theater of alarms and enters the sanctuary. How do I know I am again my own steward and not an antenna? I listen for the tide turning in the chest. The out-breath lengthens of itself. The shoulders settle down off the ears. The belly softens its grip on the spine. Peace has entered not as a theory, but as a rhythm. Breathe gently. Breathe slowly, always on the exhale. Let I ride the exhale like a whisper from the chest outward, not from the head, from the chest, closer than breathing. And then make a brief travel within. For I must train consciousness to be present at the places where fear tried to live. Begin at the forehead. Notice the brows knit, the little armor above the eyes. On the out-breath, let the armor unclasp. I. And down to the throat. Feel the ring where the voice tenses, as if to argue its safety to the world. On the out-breath, release the ring. I. Come to the chest, the breastbone warm as a door in afternoon sun. Here the gate is. On the out-breath, feel the door close on quiet hinges and the room clear. I move to the solar plexus, that bright, tender center where the punch of the headline lands. On the out-breath, let the punch dissolve into light as salt into water. I, and then to the abdomen, the seat of holding on and bracing. On the out-breath, let the belly drop its fist into an open hand. I, do you see the pattern? I do not argue with fear. I drain it of breath. I do not wrestle the broadcast. I deprive it of the lungs it had borrowed. Let everything that hath breath praise the Lord. To praise is to give breath to God, not to anxiety. Therefore I reclaim the bellows. I turn the bellows Godward. With each exhale, the proof is renewed. I am no longer receiving agitation. I am giving praise without words. And you will notice often before a thought forms to name it, that the mind quiets as a lake at evening when the wind stops. Peace, be still. Not only to the storm out there, to the storm in here. And the stillness obeys. I will not pretend it is easy at first. Sometimes the world thought catches me. Sometimes I am halfway down a thread before I wake to find my breath panting like a hunted animal. Sometimes the numbers glare and the jaw sets and I forget the way home. But not for too long. I snap out of it. How? Not by scolding, not by boasting, by the exhale. One slow, generous letting go, and then another, and then the word without ornament, I and the porter is back at the door. I have learned this the long, long way, and sometimes it still tries to get the best of me, but not for long, because the proof returns in the body, and the body is honest. The meat can pretend. The diaphragm cannot. When the exhale slows, I have cut the signal. When the exhale slows, I am no longer a receiver. I am the sanctuary. Now make this your check in every encounter. Do not ask, do I agree? Do I approve? Ask, has the exhale lengthened? If yes, you are reading from dominion. If no, you are reading from hypnosis. Stop, seal, return. This is not indifference. This is readiness. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. The world gives pings and surges. I give the exhale. And from the exhale arises the clear sight that can meet a fact without swallowing its fumes. The sign is simple, so do not complicate it. When the exhale slows, you have left the broadcast and returned to the living eye. From there, we can go on to face the day, to read the lines without letting them write our chemistry, to act without absorbing, to love without trembling, for the life that breathes this chest is the same life breathing every chest. And in that one breath, we will learn to take in the world without letting it take us in. Now we take this breath proof into the marketplace of words. Dominion does not hide from facts. Dominion chooses how to meet them. I may be informed. I will not be saturated. I choose my dose. I choose my hour. I choose my inner stance. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. Therefore, I in this instant set law in my house. I will not permit world thought to appoint my schedule or my chemistry. I am the porter at the door of thought, and I admit information as a guest, not as a ruler. Make it practical, for truth without practice is a lovely painting in a dark room. I set a window, one in the morning after prayer, one at midday, one in early evening, short and sufficient, not before bed, for I will not hire nightmares as watchmen of my sleep. I lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety, and I never scroll as anesthesia. If I am lonely, I will feel loneliness and return to I. If I am bored, I will meet boredom and return to I. I will not drink dread to avoid thirst. That is not courage. That is addiction in a respectable suit. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. During the window, I do not wander. I go in as a steward with a list, not as a child in a carnival. I choose my source. I decide beforehand what I seek. I read once. I stop. And all the while I keep the chest-based I present. I sit as one who abides in the sanctuary and looks out through the gate, not as one swept into the street. If the breath shortens, I pause. If the shoulders rise, I pause. If the belly hardens, I pause. The porter returns to the door, stop, seal, return, and only then, if the body witnesses peace with the lengthened exhale, do I proceed. Prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. I prove by the breath, I hold fast by the exhale. Now here is the question that ends compulsion. Is this useful action or mere transmission of fear? Ask it at the threshold of every clip and thread. If it is useful, I note the action and take it, write a letter, make a call, give a gift, show up, pray with understanding, comfort a neighbor. Then I close the page and return to I. If it is transmission, if its only fruit is a spike in the veins and a share button, then I deny it entry. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. I will not let issues of fear flow from a heart kept for life. And be careful of the subtle lie that says, if you cared, you would gorge. That is not love. That is hypnosis. Love is sober. Love discerns. Love does not demand that I bathe the nerves in toxins to prove my compassion. Love says, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, and moves with quiet, effective mercy. Therefore I can read the hardest line with the softest chest. I can face a storm without letting wind nest in my ribs. Dominion allows me to face facts without letting facts become fear inside my body. Do not imagine that this is isolation. Dominion is not a gated community of the soul. It is an open city rightly governed. Because I am not inflamed, I am available. Because I am not invaded, I can be sent. Here am I. Send me. To whom? To the same world I refuse to let inside as poison now received as neighbor. Information, met from I, matures into compassion that acts, into unity that remembers one life. In the next breath we will stand in that remembrance, and the dread that feeds on separation will have no pasture in us at all. Now let us widen the circle. because dominion without unity turns to private fortresses, and that is not the kingdom. I cannot keep my heart as a citadel against their panic and imagine that I have attained peace. I do not have my peace while they have their fear. There is not my peace and their fear. There is one life appearing as many, one breath moving as a billion ribs, one light shining through different windows. There is one body and one spirit. Therefore, I refuse the hypnosis of separateness that makes dread seem useful. Fear thrives on the lie of divided lives. It recruits by convincing me that I must secure myself against you. But if I and my Father are one, and you and I are members one of another, then what blesses one blesses all. What heals one segment radiates in the whole. What I hoard from you, I starve in myself. Now, do you remember that I did not say my oneness with God? I said my conscious oneness with God, and by that very consciousness, my conscious oneness with you. My interests are your interests. My supply is your supply. There is no my health and thy health, only the health of the one expressed as many. We, being many, are one bread and one body. Why then would I quarrel to be right against you, when in wounding you I bruise the very hand with which I would feed myself? This hand can neither give nor withhold of itself. Something directs this hand. If that something is separation thought, the hand clenches. If that something is one life, the hand opens and finds there is enough. Let me speak plainly about the battlefield of the timelines. Most of what passes for argument is scarcity thought in costume, scarcity of safety, scarcity of worth, scarcity of attention. Separation makes argument tempting, because if we are two, one must lose. But unity makes strife taste stale. In the remembrance that I am thyself, the spike in my veins that begged for a clever retort dissolves into the gentle strength that asks, what action would actually bless the whole? Perhaps I close the app and call a neighbor. Perhaps I donate. Perhaps I vote. Perhaps I go quiet and pray with understanding. I can witness suffering and serve without taking fear as an identity badge. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ, not by catching each other's panic, but by remembering one life so fully that courage becomes contagious. I will not pretend that unity is a sentiment. It is governance. It is the government of the I disarming the tribal reflex. When I stand as porter at the door of thought and refuse to admit the story that your gain is my loss, I dethrone the very tyrant that sows dread. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Quietness, because I do not perform compassion for the crowd. Confidence, because I trust the unseen arithmetic of one life seed sown in love multiplies supply for all. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, and shaken together, and running over. Now, yes, there is work, there are policies to weigh, people to feed, wrongs to right. Unity does not cancel diligence. It purifies it. I act without the acid. I move without the tremor. I refuse to let fear be the credential that proves I care. Love is sober. Love discerns. Love does not panic to be holy. Perfect love casteth out fear. And perfect love is not sentimental. It is structural. It is the realization that there is only one I here, wearing every face. When I let that dawn in the chest closer than breathing, the magnetism of collective dread weakens. It cannot stick to a surface that offers no separation. So let our language chain, not their panic and my peace, our one life. Not my side and your side, our one body. Not my victory and your loss, our shared good. You are an extension of myself. I am thyself. As that recognition settles, as naturally as the slowed exhale, quarreling grows unnecessary, rivalry looks juvenile, and helpfulness becomes the straightest line. That they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee. And here is the next step. For I must not leave you with a concept. The deepest signal cut is not turning off devices. It is stripping words and images until only the bare, living I remains, the I that is God's I, rising from the chest, without adjective, without boast. There, unity is not believed, it is felt. There, fear finds no purchase, because there is no other to fear and no self to defend, only I. Now I must say a thing that will feel like a correction of our most cherished habits. Words are furniture in the head, even the sacred words. God, Spirit, Christ, peace, unity, beautiful, necessary in early stages. But if I keep them running in the head, I can live a lifetime surrounded by holy furniture and never sit down in the chair. As long as I clutch at a word about God, I push away the God who is closer than breathing. Be still and know that I am God. Notice that stillness is commanded before knowledge, silence before sentence. Therefore, I strip the words, not in disrespect, but in reverence for what is before the word. Let us do it now, simple and direct. For 1 minute, let the label slide off the glass of consciousness. Politics, let it drop. Economy, drop. Disease, drop. War, drop. Future, drop. All the names, even the noble ones, wisdom, justice, compassion, let them fall like headlines that cannot find a place to stick. I am not making a philosophy of emptiness. I am cleaning the window so the light can come through. As each label rises to claim attention, I do not fight. I let it slide. Take no thought for the morrow. Not because tomorrow is unimportant, but because thought about tomorrow in the head is not the same as the life that acts wisely now. On the gentle exhale, one word only, I, and even that not from the head but arising from the chest, where the word is not a word but a presence. Now, yes, as you strip the words, something in you will try to understand the I. Do not permit it. Understanding is a function of the head, and we are not consulting the head just now. Do not strain. Do not glare inward. Do not try to seize the I with a thought. Abide as it. Let silence do the work. I am not reaching up. I am letting the ground of being rise to meet me where I already am. I am that I am. Before Abraham was, I am. Not the personal me boasting, the presence declaring itself without adjectives. The more I relax the tongue of the mind, the more the chest swells with a quiet, unprovoked peace. And when only I remains, the fear trance has nowhere to latch, because fear needs a story, a picture, a future. The I is prior to story, prior to picture, prior to time. Now hear me. I do not abandon Scripture. I enter it. The kingdom of God is within you. Within where? Not in the attic of thoughts. Within, closer than breathing, where the word I arises without noise. In him we live and move and have our being, not in words about him, in him. Therefore I practice the holy poverty of language. I set down even the golden words until there is only this immediate being, this breath, this chest-warm presence. In that poverty, I discover the wealth that cannot be stolen. No slogan can be hypnotized. Only the mind that clings to slogans can be caught. When I drop the slogans, I drop the hook. I will not pretend the head will not interrupt. It will offer substitutes. Spirit, source, divine mind, refined, respectable, and still noise if they rise from the head. Gently I refuse, not harshly, gently. My sheep hear my voice. Where is the voice? It is soundless, and it shepherds by stillness, not by argument. Each time the head begins its sermon, I return to the chest and breathe the single syllable, not as a chant to work a spell, but as a signal to rest in what already is. I let the silence graze the nerves, the shoulders, the belly, until the exhale slows and the body testifies the trance is broken. And now, to keep me from turning inwardness into a private echo chamber, I lift my eyes. I look where I cannot teach a word to a blade of grass, and yet it stands upright. I look where no bird scrolls a feed to find a wind, and yet it rides the current. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Life, unanxious, unhypnotized, perfectly aware. The same eye that grows the grass, that patterns the flight, that clothes the lilies, is the eye in my chest. In the next breath, I will show you how to see it there, so that what governs the meadow may govern the mind without strain and without fear. Now let me keep that promise. Look not at a screen, but at the nearest living thing. A blade of grass pushes up through a crack without asking a forecast. A bird takes a line of sky no algorithm revealed. A cut you got washing dishes last week has knit itself while you slept, and your nails lengthened in the night without consulting your calendar. Thou sendest forth thy spirit, they are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth. This renewing is not a project, it is the way life is. It is order already functioning, unhurried, unpanicked, exact. Now hear the correction that liberates. The body is not the governor, and the swirl of thoughts is not the governor. This hand cannot grow a nail. This head cannot tell the heart when to beat and have it obey for long. Something deeper is directing, animating, regulating, closer than breathing. That's something I call I, not the egotistical I that boasts, the gentle, living I that even now keeps a billion processes faithful without my supervision. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. The restoring is not episodic. It is the very nature of life expressing itself as me. Therefore, I reason spiritually, and I let nature tutor me out of anxiety. If the same eye grows grass without strain, shall I imagine that it needs strain to govern a timeline? If the same eye carries birds across oceans, shall I suppose that it cannot carry a thought harmlessly past my gate? If the same eye knits tissue in the dark, shall I fear that it cannot knit peace in my nerves when headlines press? Consider the ravens. God feedeth them. How much more are ye better than the fowls? Not better as rivals, better as conscious participants in the same life. Now bring it home to dominion. If digestion proceeds without my worry, if heartbeat keeps covenant while I dream, then I can, by conscious consent, let the same I govern what I admit to thought. I, in this instant, assume dominion as porter at the door. I do not grind my teeth to keep fear out. I align with the order already at work. Order keeps the seasons. Order can keep the mind. The kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost. And that kingdom organizes consciousness as surely as spring organizes sap. Make a practice of this demonstration. Go to a window if you have one. If not, imagine one. Look upon a tree, a tuft of grass in a sidewalk seam, a patch of sky with a moving cloud. On the gentle exhale, whisper in the heart, not from the head, but from the chest, I am the life of this tree. I am the life of this grass. I am the life of this cloud's motion. I am the life of this breath. Pause and let the words dissolve into presence. Feel for the proof. The exhale lengthens. The shoulders settle. The belly releases. Not spectacle governance. Not suggestion recognition. In him we live and move and have our being. I am not naming a distant him. I am resting in the I that is being itself. Do not be afraid that this turns you into a swaggering magician. Put up thy sword. It has to be a gentle I. I am not commanding winds. I am consenting to the order that already is, and in that consent the winds within obey. Next step, repetition. See it once, and then see it again, and then again until seeing ripens into being, morning, noon, and night. Let nature remind you of your native governance. Grass growing eye, bird crossing eye, wound knitting eye, nail lengthening eye. Each notice is a training. Long periods of practice, not with strain, but with the same quiet fidelity by which spring returns until the old habit of absorption breaks off like a dead twig and the reflex of dominion stands in leaf. For the life that orders nature is the same I ordering my consciousness without strain and without fear. Now I will be very plain with you because love must be practical. A broadcast that has been running for years has worn a groove, and grooves do not disappear because I hear one sermon. The fear stream is habitual. That is all. And what is habitual must be retrained, not once, not twice, but again and again, until the new pathway bears the weight of my days without strain. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Repetition is not failure. Repetition is the path. Therefore, I appoint myself to discipline, not harsh, not punishing, not egoic, but steady, gentle governance. I, in this instant, assume dominion as porter at the door of thought, and I accept that this dominion will be renewed hour by hour until it is my reflex. Make a daily drill that a busy life can actually keep. Morning, 1 minute before any device, before any headline, even before coffee. I wake, and without sitting like a statue, I simply notice the chest, the warm door, and on 3 soft exhales, I let the word arise from the chest, not the head. I, and then I say within quietly, I will not be an antenna for world fear today. I stand porter at the door. That is all. 60 seconds. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. When I give 1 minute to the I am not buying favor. I am consenting to order. The day hears me. The body hears me. The world thought also hears and knows it will not find an unlocked gate. Midday. The very first sign of tightening is my bell. I do not let it accumulate. Tight jaw. Flicker in the gut. Shoulders climbing. Breath getting quick. Those are not my enemies. They are my doorbell. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The snap out of it method is this. I stop. I will not move the finger to scroll one more line. I seal. An inward refusal, very gentle. No entrance. I return. One slow exhale and the chest whisper, I. If I am standing, I soften the knees. If I am typing, I take the hands off the keys. 1 breath. Sometimes 2. Often that is enough for the exhale to lengthen, for the belly to unclench, and for the porter to be again on his post. If it rises again in 5 minutes, I do it again. That is not a setback. That is the muscle learning. Stand fast, therefore, not by clenching, but by returning. Evening. I seal the door before sleep. 5 minutes if I can, 1 minute if I cannot. I look back over the day, not to scold, but to release. Where I was caught, I declare it impersonal suggestion and let it pass into nothingness. Where I stood in I give thanks not as a performance, but as recognition that order carried me. Then 3 or 4 slow exhales with I from the chest. I let the labels fall away. I practice poverty of words until only presence remains. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. I do not take the world to bed with me. I give no place to the suggestion. I give my place to I. Now hear this, for it will save you from discouragement. Sometimes you will wake already halfway down a corridor of dread. Sometimes your noon will find you lit up like a fuse. Sometimes at night you will remember that you forgot to remember. Do not condemn. Do not dramatize. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. But we resist not with argument. We resist with return. Each relapse is only a knock at the door by an impersonal world thought. I am the porter. I decide. I do not accuse myself for a knock. I simply do not open. The righteous falleth 7 times and riseth up again. Rise up again by the exhale. Rise up again by the single word I. Gentle as a feather, firm as a government. What happens with long periods of practice? The old antenna, starved of use, breaks. The nervous system takes its cues from the chest, not the feed. The reflex of absorption loosens its hold, and the reflex of dominion stands ready. You will find, without announcing it, that the first breath slows before the mind names the storm. You will notice that the hand reaches to help before the tongue reaches to quarrel. You will read a hard line without hardening, and your action will be clear, proportioned, effective. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Quietness, because you are no longer a receiver. Confidence, because the eye that grows the grass is governing your mind. Now I bless you into this discipline, not as burden, but as benediction. Let these little minutes be seeds. Morning, I, midday, stop, seal, return. Evening, seal the door, and rest. Keep them until keeping is joy, and joy until peace, and peace until the quiet authority that needs no display. Renewal will not come as fireworks. It will come as a steady light that does not flicker when the wind rises. Regeneration will not announce itself with trumpets. It will be known by the lengthened exhale and the untroubled gaze. And from that peace, compassion will move you. And from that authority, your yes will be yes and your no, no. My peace I give unto you. Receive it as practice. Receive it as breath. Receive it as the living eye, nearer than hands and feet, closer than breathing. Now we seal the work. The ark is simple and sovereign. I recognize the invasion. I refuse to serve as an antenna. I took my post as porter at the door of thought. I cut the signal. The breath slowed. The chest remembered I. Unity was restored. Compassion moved without panic. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Therefore I now, in this instant, assume conscious dominion and bless you into the same, not as a performance, not as a swashbuckler, but as the gentle eye that governs without noise. Be still and know that I am God. In stillness, the knowing arranges everything. Carry a litany you can live by morning and night. And in every hour when the doorbell rings, I cannot permit world fear to enter. I stand as porter. I stop, I seal, I return, I rest in I abide in peace. I bless the world without absorbing it. I am not a receiver. I am awareness governed by the living I. I am not a battleground. I am the place of prayer where facts are faced and fear finds no seat. I am thyself. Therefore what I bless returns to me. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Let this be said gently, not to rouse the ego, but to soothe it into obedience. For the next 7 days, give yourself to a holy experiment in order. Choose one fixed window for news brief, deliberate, the same each day, and let all other windows be closed. No headlines at waking, none at bed. In those 7 days, practice stop, seal, return 3 times daily. Whether or not you feel invaded, at morning rise, at midday's first tightening, at evening's door. Track the breath as your evidence. When the exhale lengthens and the shoulders settle, you have left the broadcast. If you must, keep a small note where the eye will see. I exhale, return. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Renewal is not fireworks. Renewal is measured by the breath that witnesses order. Now carry the fruit into the world as ethics, not as slogans, in comments and conversations. Refuse to be a repeater station for dread. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. If you must correct as one who knows we are one body. If you must confront as one who has no enemy. Give where you can, show up where you are sent, and when you cannot act outwardly, pray with understanding until unity ripens into wise action. Blessed are the peacemakers, not the passive, but the governed, the ones who bring a climate where courage can breathe. Hear the benediction within the charge. My mind is not an antenna for fear. It is an instrument of awareness governed by the living I. Each day it is renewed, not by novelty, but by return. His mercies are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Therefore I shall not be weary in well-doing. I shall not faint in returning. I shall not make a god of alarms. I in this instant abide as the eye that is nearer than hands and feet, closer than breathing. I then am the bread of life for my day, quiet strength, measured word, compassionate deed. And I do not claim this as a personal glory. I receive it as the way life is in me and in thee. So let us rise into the ordinary with extraordinary simplicity. Morning, I. Midday, stop, seal, return. Evening, seal, and rest. Read the world from dominion, not dread. Face the hard line with a soft chest. Transmit calm. Protect the gate. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And holding peace, you will find that peace holds you, and holding you, it flows through you as blessing to all. I cut the fear signal. I return to the living. From that quiet dominion, I meet the world with peace and power. Amen.